Ah, third time's a charm. Did you hang in there with me? Good to see you. I don't have my earbuds. I hope I'm audible. Maybe I'll just stay closer to my screen today to make sure you can hear me. So good to be here. Happy New Year. So my name's aLex. We're here with Sun and Moon Yoga Studio for some time practicing together through this electronic portal. I've got a theme to present. We'll ground. We'll do a tiny bit of movement that gets us aware of ourselves on a subtle and very connectable level. And then we'll slide into meditation. I'm going to just shift something. You might notice my hair has a lovely yellow tint to it. I was at a family gathering yesterday, and some of the young ladies were playing salon with our hair, putting what we hope is temporary coloring in our hair. I wanted blue, but they lost the blue color. So, all right, thank you for being here. I know that Ida and Aisha signed up. It does help me if you sign up. It helps me to know you're there. I know you're there anyway, but just that more individual connection is sweet. So wherever you are, and you want to, for this practice where we'll mostly be sitting, you could do this lying down or sitting in a chair. I'm going to grab my cushion from farther back. And just arrive to where you are right now. So we are often, our mind is pulling us backward in time and forward in time, upward or downward, out of ourselves, or deep into ourselves, into something particular. And when we come to center, to ground, it's not that those other things necessarily go away, but we are able to see them from a little bit broader perspective, a different perspective. And this practice actually leads us to these kinds of practices of various of presence. You can get it through Tai Chi, meditation, yoga, prayer, others, many others. Anything that connects us to that beingness that never changes. So what's very useful, though, is to locate yourself right here, because that access to that beingness is actually only available here and now, not in those things from the past or the pulls to the future. And when we're in our mind, most of our mind generally is our perceptual and cognitive abilities are calculating like that in some way, calculating, fabricating. And when we settle into the just here now by sensing the ground underneath us, it's a very good starting point. One of the three that I use that I'll talk you through just in these moments. We drop into that part of our perception, that part of our knowing that is our being knowing itself. So ground is the first. I'm going to add the second one because I'm feeling it myself now. Breath is they don't have to be in this order. You could have gone with breath first, but I usually start with ground. And just feeling the particular and unique way that your feet, your legs, the concrete parts of your being that are feeling ground is the helpful portal. And for me, a part of this feeling ground in the way we are, the way we happen to be on this planet is to feel gravity, is to tune in to this invisible force, but that we're extremely well familiar with, well versed in sensing. And the more I pay attention to it, as in anything, the more we get to know it, the ground, the gravity, I feel it as a grid of any point, a line from any point, a plumb line dropping, the one that we often in yoga learn from the just above the top of our heads, going all the way down through the center of the core of our body when we're standing or sitting upright. And even if you're lying down, if you're horizontal, then feel that one. You can feel it the same way, some from above your body down to the center of the earth. And all these, the lines, so they're not parallel to each other, but they're slightly coming together. So slight, this is much less than that, but so slightly, but they're all held together in the center of the earth, like holding on to a group of balloons, a bouquet of balloons, helium balloons. And when we start to feel our body in that grid, we can relax into that, the web of gravity holding us. And gravity has a partner, an equal and opposite force of levity. Sometimes maybe in yoga practices, you've done practices where you're either standing or sitting and you press downward into the ground. You can do that now. And then when you let that go, or as you're doing it, you might feel the upward complement, that partner, that levity. And for me, to align ourselves through feeling that grid is more powerful than to be told where to put your shoulder, where to place your chin, where to feel it, to feel the connectedness of all our body parts within this grid of gravity. Ground, breath. So within all that physical architecture I just described, notice now as your body be quieting into stillness. Notice now breath. You may even I've got one hand on my belly, one hand on my upper chest to feel the movement of the breath as it moves the body. I'm going to take the hand from my chest and put it behind me, low on my belly, on my sacrum and back rather, and one hand on the front. And just allow the hands to move with the body. To feel these changing shapes and not to do anything with the breath, but simply watch it, observe it, enjoy it. Maybe little shifts will come to how you're sitting or lying down, your body position. And maybe you're still feeling, as we notice the breath, you're even more feeling the gravity, the ground, and the shape that occupies this space. So that's the third one, sound and space around. So I'm going to release my hands, still feeling ground, gravity, breath, and now listening for sound. The mantra of these three that I learned from my teachers in Embodied Life School is ground, sound, breath. And again, you can take them in any order. Perhaps useful for you might be to come first to breath when you use this on your own. Or even sound, that act of listening carefully already brings us to a quiet, a stilling, a stillness to like, hark, what do I hear? And so you can use this mantra of these three um, pointers anytime during our practice. If you feel like your mind is wandering, if you feel like you're um, departing this moment, then just come back. Just step right back on the into quiet, into stillness, into listening. And today, as our mini movement, a larger one that I've been taking, but you can make this quite small, and I'll go into that, I'll segue to that myself. But I'd like to revisit the very, very simple 6 directions of the spine that you've done in yoga, if you've practiced yoga, very likely. So the first one is just the opening of the first two. There's 6 of them, so they're pairs. The first two is going to be an opening of the front body, perhaps lifting arms up, perhaps not, and then a rounding, so the front body gets more curved inward, concave, and the back body opens. And you can pair this with your breath, as you've probably done in classes. The in-breath, opening the front body, back exhaling as you round and open the back body, but it could be the other way. And then if you like, as I mentioned, I'm going to make this much smaller movement. So where I still feel a lengthening opening of the front, widening, and then the reverse with the back. So you can kind of pull the sides in, sort of like a stingray. You think of a manta ray or stingray as they can flex their bodies in one direction and the other. And you can make it smaller and smaller. And you don't need to let go of that I feel of ground, that anchoring of the ground, and feeling the grid that holds us, supports us, of gravity levity, the space around, and to be listening. To be listening. Listening is a bit in time, right? It's something, it's a little bit of that anticipation or expectation that I put into my title today, and that I will read in a poem. And listening gets us to that quiet place of what's next, what's coming next. You can stop the movement or make it smaller and smaller until you just come back to your neutral positioning, whether it's whatever position you're in, lying down or sitting. And then the next two, I'm going to go into twists. Um, yeah, sort of a spiral. So a twisting to one direction, twisting the spine. So something stays anchored and the rest goes. The bottom stays anchored and the top goes. Or if you're lying down, you might take your hips and legs to the side while your shoulders stay anchored. Or you can anchor your hips and legs and move your torso, your upper torso side to side, like we're doing from sitting position. And perhaps as you're doing this, you can let your gaze go far out in front of you, to imagine seeing not even just what you see in front of you. For me, it's the windows and the trees, the buildings, the trees and shrubs outside, but imagine seeing like with X-ray vision, far into the distance, far, far into the distance, to the horizons. And again, you can let this movement get smaller and smaller, and perhaps letting yourself feel as you go into smaller and smaller movement. What I love about this is it brings us to feel a little more, I think, a little more vividly how the hip, middle spine, shoulder, collarbone, chin, eyes, any parts, any dots you draw in your body, how they're connected. Smaller movements seem to enlarge in the space, perceptual space inside for me. And that was the second two. So 4. I didn't take a pause after the first two, but let's do that. Let's take a pause and just feel. Listen. Listen with all your senses. Listen for that feel of being, of just being, that's never changing, always here. Our own presence. And then the side to side, opening the side body, bringing that back to neutral, the other side. And just playing with it as you like for opening your side body. And then I'm going to drop the movement of the arms and go to smaller movements. Mostly just sensing that whole spinal column, kind of including the head and neck. Neck contains part of the spine. But then I'm still doing big movements. I'm going to take it smaller. And breathing. I get sometimes quiet as I go deeper and more inward. I'm feeling all of it, feeling what's around the movement, where the movement feels like it initiates, how it travels, what parts are nearby. And once again, coming to a pause. And here you might find yourself close to that kind of quiet of meditation, that quiet stillness. And just let yourself be in that, perhaps just shifting a little bit to help you stay in that stillness. I'm going to read to you a poem I received from a friend on New Year's Day. It sounded a little bit like a John O'Donohue poem, a poet I enjoy, but it's not him. It was a little surprising. And I'll tell you the poet's name at the end. Blessings. The poem is called Blessings for the New Year. As the hours of darkness in the Northern Hemisphere begin to slowly wane from the winter sky, so too may the fearful places of your heart unclench their grasp on your life. As the presence of light begins to grow with greater sureness with each passing day, may your own courage blossom to open more brightly to truth and love. Let this be the year that you turn off the television and silence the talk radio chatter in order to pick up the writing pen, the paintbrush, and watch the candle slowly burn. May this be the year that you delight in seeing how much joy you can extravagantly spread. May you discover just how much beauty you can recklessly shower upon this thirsty world. May this be the year that you tune both the dusty piano in the corner and the inner listening of your careworn heart. so that both can play in harmony with the chorus of creation. May you break the invisible yardstick of impossible expectations and learn that just as you are enough. May this be the year that you cease trying to march to an imagined ideal and instead wrap your arms around the messy wonder your life really is. Hold it close and do the tango. Let this be the year you befriend your soul in its radical particularity, not forsaking it yet again for the bland demands and cravings of the masses. Instead, may you elope with the wildness of your own true calling, marry your soul to its deepest longings, and invite the hungry world to the wedding feast. By Kaylee Asbo. And so perhaps those words also held you in a quiet, still place of listening. And so let's keep that going and simply segue to the meditation part. That same ground sound breath for about 8 minutes. As my teacher says, enjoy your journey. So, this sitting practice of stillness, listening, and dropping in to be more and more familiar with our own being, like coming home to ourself, allows us to see clearly, more clearly, that impulse of expectation, that very human impulse, as those of us from where I live are expecting snow tonight. That excitement and all the thought energy in that direction, or any expectation that arises. That's that forward pulling impulse. And to let it be there, and yet notice that we are, the fact that we can even have those wonderful, wonder-filled moments toward the future comes from just the very enoughness of being. The well of being. It's eternally refreshing us, supporting us. And so we can rejoice, relish all the places our mind takes us, our senses, and yet keep feeling that it's coming from this deep well of being. Perhaps you feel over and over different poles of your senses, like mine just went to the sound of my heating system and wondering if it's coming across too loud in the recording. And then I could just come back, just let that be, and just come back to enjoying feeling my boundless presence. So over and over, something comes to my acute attention into narrow focus, and I don't deny it. I sort of celebrate it, but then see the more, feel the more, come back to the root of well-being, the well of being. And when we know that deep, boundless well of our own being more and more through this connection with it, we can hold more and more of the difficult, the painful, the suffering, the angry, as just part of the whole fabric that and our essential being undisturbed, yet also um, connected and compassionate with those sufferings in ourself and with others. To play in harmony with the chorus of creation and break the invisible yardstick of impossible expectations. Learn that just as you are enough. Thank you for joining me. I bow to you. I bow to all of us sharing this planet, and especially those of us doing this work that ripples out and creates more compassion toward each other, even when we will go through moments that seem so absent of that. The phrase well of being came to me. There's a book of that name a friend gave me the book. It's a beautiful illustration lovely play on well-being and well with well of being, that beingness I'm pointing to. And but it is also a feel of well-being when we tap into that well of being. Thanks again for joining me. Check out sunandmoonstudio.com. We have so much to offer in this community, and um, you can be a part of it. And again, apologies for a little late start. Thank you. See you next time.